Hey there, my name is Memo. This is my channel Houseplanty Goodness, and essentially it's a place that I like to geek out about my big passion, which you might be able to see in front of me and behind me this time, which is tropical houseplants. As a new YouTube content creator, it does really help if you give me feedback in the terms of if you like this video, do drop a like down below. It lets me know that you like videos like this, and I can bring more out similar to this. And also, if you like content generally like this, consider subscribing down below as well, because each week, about 2 to 3 times a week, I will bring out videos with similar types of content. Now, without further ado, hopefully this might be a bit of a shorter video today. I want to talk about the fact that a lot of the houseplants that we have in our care, specifically some of the common houseplants and the fast-growing houseplants, in their natural habitats would be considered almost weeds. And it kind of makes sense if you consider how fast they are growing and how good they are growing against some adverse conditions as well. Probably the biggest example that I can show you of this is the humble Pothos, or the Epipremnum aureum. So this is the Epipremnum, the golden Pothos. And obviously that has got yellow variegation. Anything that you see that's colourful or variegated that I'm going to talk about here, consider it that in nature it will probably be the greener version, because a lot of things that have got more colour and less green, or more variegation and less green, generally wouldn't do as well out and about in nature. We prize them because they look beautiful and they look different, but in nature very rarely do variegated plants that happen that doesn't happen naturally to the plant itself will survive. So things like the jade pothos, which is the green pothos, consider that. And I think I found this on YouTube. I do encourage you to go and find a look at looking at huge pothos, or pothos rips building, or something along those lines. I can't remember exactly what the video was called, but these are kind of plants that if you put them in locations, probably not in the UK, but things like the example that a lot of people use is places like Florida in the States, which have got similar kind of environments to where they might originally come from. These can also become invasive species, because essentially they will grow like wildfire. They don't have any natural predators in that environment because it's not their natural habitat. And essentially there's no way of controlling them, and they will start taking over certain habitats and possibly pushing out some of the more endemic species to that region. So bear that in mind. You generally don't want to be putting this outside in the slightly warmer, more tropical climates. This individual that I'm talking about in this YouTube video, hopefully you'll find it is quite entertaining to watch. They put a Epipremnum aureum of golden pothos specifically outside of their building. It was like a 5-floor building. It grew up the side of the building. The leaves became massive, about 2 or 3 meters long, I would imagine. They got fenestration, so they've got splits in them, absolutely huge. Grew up to the size of the tree, essentially, up the side of the building. And at some point they had to bring it down. And when they brought it down part of the exterior wall. So bear that in mind. These plants want to survive, and they are fighters, and that is generally what weeds are. They will survive in these. They're advantageous plants that will grow in all of these different conditions, because they'll be able to kind of either seed themselves or root themselves quite easily. Another one that we do have in the UK, which a lot of people from the UK will look at people across different parts of the world and go, why would you want that in your house, is English ivy. Barring the fact that it's a pest magnet alone, I've also been dealing with it in the garden of the property that I've just bought and moved into. It's a weed in the UK, so it will cause damage to buildings. We've had to replace a whole fence on one side of the property, which cost an awful lot of money, because the ivy essentially had kind of like ripped it out of its foundations. So this is how aggressive some of these plants can be in their natural habitats. Another one that you might be able to see in front of me, and obviously this is the variegated form, so this is the Albo Syngonium, but the Syngoniums are another one that you can imagine. Like if you imagine this one has got a trailing, so obviously we try to grow these up, but these can also be trailing, but they've got very succulent aerial roots that could easily attach to the soil that they're growing along, and then new plantlets will pop out from each one of those nodes potentially. So they are very, very aggressive growers. Again, there's a reason why these are such easy plants to take care of, because they want to survive. They are almost like weeds. The other one And this might come to some surprise to some people, if things like caladiums, not the hugely ornate ones like this one, but the more green variety. I think I saw this from some people in the Philippines. In the Philippines, these are considered like a weed because they grow along or close to rivers, essentially. But because they are bulbs and they can kind of keep growing in that format, they can become quite large clumps of these quite easily. So people in the Philippines are just like, why would people want these as a house plant? We can't get rid of them here, essentially. But again, you need to probably remember in the Philippines, they probably don't have a very extreme winter, which in the northern hemisphere, a lot of the times what will happen with caladiums when it gets cooler, they will kind of die back down to a tuber, and then you would replant them and regrow them the next growing season. If you'd imagine plants like this not having that dormancy period and being able to kind of grow and keep growing, they can kind of take over quite quickly. The other one as well, which I'll kind of pick up at the moment, I've got a cutting of rather than the full plant, but it will display what I want to show, is the humble Monstera Deliciosa. And a lot of the Monsteras, the Deliciosa specifically, because of its chunky aerial roots, it can attach, again, very similar to the Pothos and kind of cause damage to buildings. I had a funny story that I heard, funny now, wasn't funny for the person that I'm talking about when they were dealing with it, but I had a friend who grew up in South Africa, and I think it was interesting because I think he called it the delicious monster. So maybe that's the common name there, which is really cool when you find out some of these names that people have for it. So with the Monstera Deliciosa, it was outside his grandmother's house. I think his grandmother just passed away, and his grandfather had said, look, can you help me kind of chop that back down? And it was growing out in front of their house, essentially, so they chopped it all the way back down, and a few months later they had to go back in and really try to remove all the roots because it was lifting the decking on the outside of the building. Vigorous growers in the right conditions. So bear that in mind. Bit more of an educational one, this one. There's not much that you can do to change this, but there's very little risk that these things will turn into weeds in your own home. One exception to that, and it's a plant that I don't have, is a Kalanchoe mother of hundreds, and there's also a thing in Kalanchoe mother of thousands and mother of millions, potentially. I might be wrong with this one. But when you get little plants with little roots growing on the edges of the leaf of those plants, have a look. You've probably seen it, but you don't remember it. It was very popular in the 80s, showing my age. But those ones will drop off the leaves and they will pretty much take root in all the pots around them. So those ones can be a bit more like a traditional weed, even in a household environment, depending on what's near it and how much those little plantlets are dropping in. But yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say today about this topic. If you've got any questions, any comments, some of your own experiences, if you're from some of these areas and you want to share some of your experiences, I would love that. And I'm pretty sure other people would like to hear it as well. So yeah, do drop it in the comments down below. Let's have that conversation. Hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.